Hi guys, I'm sorry it's been a while since I recorded the last video. I've been busy planning all of your lessons. So as you can see today, this is going to be a Key Stage 2 video and we're going to be dividing by a single digit. We're going to work our way up to big 4-digit numbers there. So I'm just going to read that number out. It says 7,348. As you can see, I've got lots of little numbers in there and I'm going to explain why those are there in a moment. So I've got my trusty board rubber and I'm ready to go. We're going to look at dividing by a single digit. Dividing is the inverse of multiplying, of timesing. So we can also use dividing as a mechanism for checking multiplication questions, and we can also do it the other way around as well. So I'm going to start off with some nice easy ones. So we're going to look at the number 5 and 510. So I just want to see if you could tell me what that means there. So what it means is, it means I'm looking at the number 510 and I want to divide it by the number 5. So you could also see it written like this. That also means the same thing. But what we're doing here is we're going to look at a shorter division method. And also, sometimes people call it the bus stop method because I think that looks a little bit like a bus stop. So I think that's why people call it the bus stop method. But today we're going to call it short division. Okay? So what we're going to do is we're going to look at each place value on its own. So we've got the hundreds, the tens, and the ones. And we're going to see how many fives we can get into each place value. How many fives are in 5? How many fives are in 1? How many fives are in 0? Okay, and now I know that sounds a little bit silly to begin with, but it will make more sense. Something that's often quite useful is I do quite often write my times tables down the side. How do I know that I want to write my 5 times table down the side, not my 510 times table down the side? So I know that I'm going to write my 5 times table down the side because I'm dividing by 5. That is the number that I'm looking to see how many I can get into 510. So let's get straight on with it. If I said to you, what is 5 divided by 5? You would all know the answer. If you did your times tables, if you did your 5 times table, you would know that 5 divided by 5 is 1. Because if you did your times tables, you would do 5. Oh, wait, I'm already there. 1 finger. So I know that I can get 1 5 in 5. And I'll explain why we're going to put that there in a minute. Then I'm going to look at my next place value. So I'm looking at my tens now. How many 5s can I get into 1? If I do my 5 times table, there isn't a 1 on there, is it? So I can't get any 5s into 1. So what I need to do is, I can't just forget about that number. I'm going to move it into my next place value because it was what was left over. So what I'm going to do now, how many 5s are in 10? So I'm going to go down my 5 times table, 5, 10, 5, 10. So I've counted 2. So I know that there are 2 5s in 10. Okay? And this is why we can do this method, and this is why it works. So what we're saying is, in the number 510, there are 102 5s. If I did my 5 times table, 5, 10, 15, 20, 25, 30, 35, 40, 45, 50, by the time I get to 510, I would have 102 fingers up. Now, I don't have 102 fingers, so it's a difficult way to show that using your fingers in that method. So this is a good way of working it out. Okay, so what I've done is I've seen how many 5s I can get into 500, and I can get 100 5s into 500. I've seen how many 5s I can get into 110. Now I can't get any 5s just into that 110 on its own. So what I've had to do is I've had to move it into the ones so that I can say how many 5s can I get into 10 ones, and I can get 2 lots of 5. Okay, let's do a more difficult one this time, and let's think about our 6 times table. So something that you might want to consider before you start this, write your 6 times table down at the side next to where we're going to work this out. I'll be doing it at the same time. So 6, 12, 18, 24, 30. Now we might need more than that later on. That's okay. And I'll do those a bit later if I need them. Okay, so what I'm going to start off with is my bus stop looking method. Okay, what's the number I'm dividing by? I'm dividing by 6. And the number that I'm dividing is 726. Okay, so we're still looking at a 3-digit number. So if I was to write that down in a way that you all recognise, it would be 726 divided by 6 equals. Okay, and we'll put the number underneath afterwards. What we're going to look at is how many 6s can I get into each place value. So I'm going to draw my line again. This will be the last time that I draw the line because I think it makes it look a little bit more complicated. What we're going to look at, how many 6s can I get into 700s? How many 6s can I get into 2 10s? How many 6s can I get into 6 ones? Okay, but again, we're looking at each place value on its own to begin with. So how many 6s can I get into 7? Now 7 isn't on my times table here, so I have to use my brain a little bit. Is 7 bigger than any of these numbers? Yes, it is. It's bigger than 6, isn't it? It's bigger than 6, but it's not quite 12. So what I might do is I might draw a little arrow there to show that it's big enough to have 1, but it's not big enough to have 2. So if you imagine that I've got 7 sweets, so 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7 sweets, and I want to share them between 6 people. We all know my stick men. They're not very good, are they? But they do the job. So 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6. That's a very tall stick man. So they would get 1. 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 And they would get 1. And we've got 1 left over. Remember, when we're sharing them out, they need to be equal. So I can't give that one to anyone else because they've got 1 each and I've not got enough for anyone else. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to say we've got enough to put 1 6 into that 700 there. So we've got 1 6. Okay, but then we've got 1 left over, haven't we? So what we need to do is we need to move that into our next column, our next place value. So our next place value is our 10s. So that now becomes 12, because what I've done is I've put my 1 in front of my 2. So it's become 12 10s. So that's like saying 120. It becomes 12 10s. So what I'm going to do now, I'm going to see how many 6s I can get into 12. Oh wait, that's on my times table. That's handy. So I know that I can get 1, 2, 6, 12. I know that I can get 2 6s into 12. Okay? And now I'm going to move on to my last one because I've not got anything left over. I don't need to move anything into my next place value. So I'm going to see how many 6s can I get into 6. Oh, that's handy again. It's in my 6 times table. So I know that I can get 1 6 into 6 ones. Okay? I'm going to give you some time to just copy that down and see if you can understand the method. Go through that bit again if you don't understand it, because we're going to go on to 4 digits now. Okay? So I'm just going to get my trusty rubber. I'm just going to rub all of my workings out. Okay, we're going to move on to our 8 times table now. Our 8 times table. So first thing you need to do, write your 8 times table down the side. I'll give you a second to do that. Now I'm going to do the same thing. 8, 16, 24, 32, 40. I'll probably stop there. I might need more later on. Okay, what I'm going to do then is I'm going to write this out. I'm going to give you a chance to do it on your own. So we are going to do 8. We are going to do 1,848. So if I was to write that down, it would look like, oh, how strange. Can't write my numbers. If I was to write that down, it would look like this. That's a lot of 8s in that question. So 1,848 divided by 8. I will give you a second to have a go using the knowledge that you've just gained from doing the previous two. Okay, right, let's have a look at it then. So, if I think about breaking down each place value again, it makes it really easy for myself, doesn't it? So, how many 8s can I get into 1,000? None. It's not big enough, is it? It's not big enough. So I know that I can't get any 8s into a 1,000. So what do I need to do? Move it into the next place value. So it becomes 1800s. 1800s. So if I look at my times table down the side there, where would 18 come? So it's bigger than 16, but it's not quite 24. So it's going to go in there. So I know that 16 is in my 8 times table, but I've got 18. So I want you to imagine that I've got 18 sweets and I've given 16 away. And now how many will I have left? Because that will be my remainder. So I know that I can get 2 8s into 16. But then how many am I going to have left over? I'm going to have 2 left over. Right, now we've done that one, so I'm just going to rub my little arrow out. So I know that I've got 2 left over because I'm imagining that I've got 18 sweets. I love sweets, that's why I always use sweets. 18 sweets, and I've given 16 away to my friends. I've only got 2 left for myself now. Okay, so 24 divided by 8. Let's look at my times table. Oh, brilliant. That's exactly what we wanted. We wanted something to be in our times table. So 24 divided by 8. I know my times tables. 8, 16, 24. That is 3. So 24 tens divided by 8 equals 3 tens. Okay. And last but not least, the ones. That's what we want. We want something that's in our times table that's really easy. So 8 divided by 8. 8. I know that is 1. Okay, so my answer is 231. So I might put that down there. I know I forgot to do that last time, but I'll do it this time for you. Okay, I'm going to give you one more where I'm going to give you the chance to do it first. So get ready to pause the video when I've written the question out, and I'm going to let you do it completely by yourself this time, and then we'll go through the answer together. So what we are going to do is we are going to do 7,852 divided by 4. Have a go. Pause the video if you need some time. Okay, let's have a go then. So the first thing that I said to do was write down your times table. 4, 8, 12, 16, 20. Might not need any more than that. I'll have another look later on. Okay. How do I know to write my 4 times table? Because 4 is on the outside of what we call this bus stop. Okay, and if we were to write it down, it would look a little bit like this. 7,852 divided by 4 equals, I don't know the answer, I'm not that clever. So we're going to have to work it out. How many 4s can I get into 7,000s? Now 7 is bigger than 4, but it's not quite big enough for 8. So I'm going to draw my arrow there because that's where I know it will go. So I know that I've got enough for 1 set. So one person, if I imagined my 4 people down there with my 7 sweets, each person would get 1, but I would have 3 left over, because if I have 7 sweets, I've given away 4, I've got 3 left over for myself, and I'd probably eat them all because I'm big and greedy. So now I've got 38 sweets. Oh no, my times table isn't big enough. So what I'm going to have to do is quickly fill that in. So 24, 28, 32, 36, 40. So 38 is bigger than all of these. It's not quite as big as 40. So it's bigger than 36, but it's not quite as big as 40. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to count how many times tables I've done. So I've done 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9 complete times tables. So 9 times 4 is 36. And I've not quite got enough to do 10 times 4. So imagining those 38 sweets again, divided by my 4 friends, each person would get 9, but then there would be 2 left over for me, and I'd eat them all up myself. So 38 divided by 4 is 9 complete ones, and then I've got 2 that I need to move on to the next column. So actually I can't eat them myself, that's a real shame. So now that I've got 25 divided by 4, we can just use our times table again. So I better rub my arrows out, I keep forgetting to do that. Ready? So 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6. Oh, it's not quite big enough for 28, is it? So we're going to put our arrow there. We've got 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6 complete times tables. And how many will I have left over? If I've got 25 and I'm taking away 24, how many will I have left over? Just think about that before I move on. So 25, I've got 6 complete lots of 4, and I've got 1 left over. So I move it into my next column, I move it into my ones. Now, 12 divided by 4, we can all do that, can't we? 12 divided by 4, I don't need this anymore. 12 divided by 4 is 3. So what's my answer? 1,963. Okay, so what I want you guys to do now is pick 4 numbers and pick a times table that you are really, really confident with. For example, you might do 3, 7, 6, 2. Pick a times table that you're really confident with, 4s, and have a go. And this is what I'm going to show you next. I'm going to show you if there is a remainder, if this last number doesn't quite go into the last times table. Okay, so pick a number, have a go at it. Any number that you want to do, that's absolutely fine. And then I'm going to show you a remainder. Okay, so have a go at them yourself to begin with. Okay, right, what we are going to do is we are going to do one last one, and we are going to look at remainders. Remainders is spelt like that. A way that we can show this is with an R and then whatever number is left, so for example 3, or we can show it as a fraction, for example 3/4 or 3/4. So we can show remainders in 2 different ways. We can show them as an R, or we can show them as a fraction. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to give you a question that I know has a remainder. So we're going to look at dividing by 3, and we are going to divide the number 8,176. So what we're going to do is we're going to work through it, but the first thing I need to do, write my times table down the side. So 3, 6, 9, 12, 15. Remember last time I didn't quite have enough, so I'm going to do more today. 18, 21, 24, 27, and 30. I probably won't need any more than 10. Okie dokie. So first thing I do is look at my thousands column. I'm going to see how many 3s I can get into 8. So it's bigger than 6. It's not quite big enough for 9. So my arrow is going to go there. I've got 2 complete 3s. If I've got 8 sweets and I'm giving away 6, I'm going to have 2 to move on to the next column. How many 3s can I get into 21? 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7. 7 complete 3s with none left over. 7 divided by 3. How many 3s can I get into 7? It's going to be in between 6 and 9, isn't it? So 7. So I've given away 6. So I've got 2 complete ones. 2 complete 3s. And I've got 1 left over for my 16 in my last column. Oh no, 16 isn't in my 3 times table. What on earth are we going to do? Well, it's exactly the same as before. All we do is we see how many complete 3s we can get in there. And then if we've got any left over, they are remainders. And we can either show that as an R, or we can show it as a fraction. So what we're going to do is we're going to look at how many complete 3s I've got. So how many 3s go into 16? 1, 2, 3, 4, 5. Oh, it's not quite big enough to be 18, is it? So my arrow's going to go there. And I'm going to see how many 3s I can get into 16. So I've got 1, 2, 3, 4, 5 complete 3s. And then I've got 1 left over. So I can show that in 2 ways. I can show it as a remainder 1, and that's the easiest way to do it. But sometimes if you get a question, it might ask you to show your answer as a fraction. So what we need to do is we need to look at how many we've got left over and what we were dividing by. And it's really simple, really, really simple. All you are going to do is, you are going to say, I've got 1 left over, and I was dividing by 3. And the reason that we can do that is because we know loads about fractions. So we know that 1/3 means 1 out of 3. Because if I look at a third like this, just imagine that they're equal. I know that this is really naughty of me for not making sure that they're equal. But 1/3 means that I have got 1 piece out of 3. So I've got 2,725 and a third when I'm dividing 8,176 by 3. So like I said before, your task now is to go and have a go at putting any numbers in that you feel really confident with and have a go at dividing them. Now, if you want to be really clever and you want to have a go at your remainders as well, that would be brilliant. If you don't, then get an adult to help you and think about what numbers might be in the times tables. An easy way to work it out would be to do the inverse, to do the multiplication. So if you want an adult to help you and make sure that there's not going to be any remainders, if you say to them, take a multiplication that you're really confident with. So I'm really confident with my 5s. So if I do 5 times 146, and then I put that in my calculator and I worked it out, then you want to put your answer in there. And that's the number that you're going to divide. Oh, it's really difficult to write upside down, and you're going to still divide by 5. Okay, so have a go. See if you can do it. Key Stage 2 lot, let me know how you get on. Let your teachers know. Email them on the home learning and say that you've had a go, and tell us how you're getting on with it. Have some fun with it, guys, and I'll see you soon.